My name is Dad Ross. On this top of the food chain, scientific channel, we investigate many different anomalies and various tenuous phenomena that the powers that be, like NASA and the global Illuminati conspiracy, conspire to hide from us.
Welcome to this strange world of T-Rex or T-Rex.
The new believers, in conjunction with the elders, present Roswell's smoking gun, the Ramey Memo, barely noticeable in one of the 1947 photos, and clutched in General Ramey's left hand is a slip of paper. Probably unwittingly, Ramey had the text side facing towards the camera. When blown up and analyzed, it tells a remarkably different story of events from the one Ramey or contemporary Air Force counterintelligence wants you to believe. The telegram held in General Ramey's hand provides smoking gun proof of a disc crash and the recovery of the victims of the wreck. The message turns out to be a telegram from General Ramey to the Pentagon and General Vandenberg, the acting ARF Chief of Staff at the time. Ramey is providing Vandenberg an update on the very fluid situation in the field at Roswell. The first paragraph describes what had been found. Ramey starts by acknowledging that the disc is next new find. He then adds that the victims of the wreck and something else, possibly just a wreck, had also been found near the recovery operation at the Raj. At the end it states that Vandenberg had ordered the victims and the wreckage forwarded to Fort Worth, Texas. In the second paragraph, Ramey describes how the situation was being handled. Ramey first states that something in the disc, probably the bodies of the forwarded victims, would be flown by a B-29 special transport, most likely the head flight surgeon at Fort Worth, Wright Field, Ohio, home of the Aeronautical Labs, was to assess the Roswell crash object. Finally, Ramey outlines how the situation was being treated publicly and how they were going to cover it up. First, he assures Vandenberg that the earlier highly inflammatory Roswell-based press release was the work of an Army counterintelligence team, but that the next sent-out press release would be of weather balloons. Ramey finishes with a statement that the weather balloon story might be better accepted if they also added weather balloon radar target demonstrations. This apparently was the impetus for the national debunking campaign using the devices that followed over the next few days. There is no question that Ramey's message, even when greatly enlarged and then enhanced by computer, is a very difficult read because of fuzziness, film grain noise, uneven development, photo defects, paper folds and tilt, shadows, and text obscured at the left margin by Ramey's thumb. This will inevitably prompt comments from die-hard skeptics that the full take on the Ramey message is strictly one's own interpretation. However, there are various keywords and phrases that can be readily seen by anyone, even in lower resolution scans of the message. First analyzed in 1999 by a number of people, these keywords and phrases unambiguously prove that there is no truth whatsoever to the various Air Force explanations, be they the original 1947 weather balloon story, or the Air Force's updated model balloon and crash dummies. Far and away the most important word of the entire messages, victims on the third line, part of phrase the victims of the wreck. If there were victims, then this was no model balloon crash. As the Air Force Roswell report itself noted, reports of bodies being recovered couldn't be true, because the crash was of a model balloon, which had no alien passengers. Of course, Ramey's mention of victims in 1947 also disproves the already preposterous crash dummies theory. The only way these 1950s crash dummies could be victims is if they also time warp back to 1947. Another easily seen keyword and phrase is disc, and in the disc on the fifth line, Ramey is clearly describing the crash object as a disc, not as a weather balloon, or a model, or a radar target, or any other word or phrase that in any way suggests some sort of balloon or balloon paraphernalia. In fact, the only mention of weather balloons and rolling targets comes at the very end of the message in the context of issued public statements and damage control. The word disc is also used on the first line in reference to what had been found, but this instance of the word is not so easily seen. Furthermore, the message refers to the subsequent shipment of something in the disk. Neither balloons nor the two-dimensional flimsy radar kites had anything inside that could be shipped. If Ramey had been referring to some piece of balloon payload equipment, then the phrase should have begun with attached to or suspended from, or with, in speaking of the victims of the wreck, using the word disk for the crash object. And shipping something in the disk, Ramey is clearly referring to something other than a balloon crash. The simplest interpretation is to take the words literally. There is no reason for Ramey to be describing events abstractly in a secret communication to his superiors. This was the crash of the so-called flying disc craft with a dead crew, found on the inside, as corroborated by the testimony of military and civilian witnesses. Ramey is quite explicit about the existence of bodies and the crash object being a disk. The only thing not made explicit in the message is the exact nature of the bodies or disk. Ramey probably does not refer to the bodies as non-human, alien, or some similar term, nor does he use terms like spaceship to describe the